WordPress Accessibility Day 2024, Creating Inclusive Experience with WooCommerce, with speakers Fahad Lambate, Associate Accessibility Director at Barrier Break, and Athira Mohanan, Associate Accessibility QA Specialist at Barrier Break. This presentation was recorded October 2024.
Welcome everyone to WordPress Accessibility Day 2024. My name is Shoz Badruddin. I am a digital accessibility consultant at the University of North Carolina. Thank you for joining us for this session titled Creating Inclusive Experiences with WooCommerce. Our presenters today come to us from Barrier Break. Athira Mohanan is an Associate Accessibility QA Specialist there. She excels in accessibility testing and ensuring digital products are accessible to everyone. With over 3 years of experience, she identifies and resolves accessibility issues, collaborating closely with development teams. Her expertise and proactive approach make her a key player in advancing digital accessibility initiatives. Fahad is an Associate Accessibility Director at Barrier Break. He leads an accessibility initiative for the testing team. With over 7 years of experience and a certified professional in web accessibility certification, he excels in aligning testing processes with accessibility standards and collaborating with cross-functional teams. His strategic insights and leadership ensure that digital projects meet quality and accessibility expectations. Audience, please feel free to add your questions in the Zoom Q&A section, and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Use the chat to connect with other attendees. Fahad, Athira, take it away.
Thanks, Sheroz. Thanks for that intro. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Yeah. So I believe the intro has already happened. So I'll just brief about myself, what I like to do in my free time. So apart from being an accessibility enthusiast, I'm also an avid gamer. I do enjoy playing a lot of games, be it PS5, be it PC, mobile. And I also like to tweak gadgets in my free time. I have definitely destroyed a couple of gadgets while tweaking them. So that was an experience as well. So yeah. So over to you, Athira.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's really amazing to be here. And also, I have started my career with accessibility with Barrier Break, and it's been a long journey, still learning. I believe in butterfly effect, so always a small change can create a huge impact. So yeah, so hoping for that. And yeah, back to you, Fahad.
Thanks, Athira. So before we start with our topic, I'll just give a brief about Barrier Break. So we are into accessibility since more than 19 years now. We do have an amazing team of more than 250 members, who helps us creating digital world more accessible, be it website, applications, documents, performing design reviews, creating VPATs. So we do all those stuff. Apart from that, I'll also say we believe in people-first approach, and we do have an accessibility lab in our office wherein there are different assistive technologies available. So anyone in office can come and experience those things because I'll say when it comes to accessibility, not everyone knows it initially. When they actually dive into the accessibility world, they come to know there are a lot of things that needs to be learned and needs to be implemented. So yeah, and we do cater to different regions around the world: UK, US, Australia, and I'll say it has been really a great experience over here. And yeah, so without further ado, let's dive into the topic. And I'm sure you must have heard what accessibility is. This is just our brief understanding of accessibility. Like basically it allows people to use anything, product, service in the way they want, using the tool they want, using how they want. So that's accessibility is for us. It shouldn't stop anyone from accessing any products, things, or services. when it comes to accessibility and e-commerce, because nowadays, especially post-COVID, digital world has been drastically changed. Everything is digital, and how can we forget the e-commerce part? E-commerce was always digital most of the time, along with offline stores as well. But when we club accessibility and e-commerce, again, I'm sure you must have heard in different talks about we have billions of people with disabilities across the world. So it helps you to increase reach to those customers as well, so that everyone is included in the experience. They can order whatever they want, whatever they need. It also not only helps to reach the customers, it also helps you to ensure your e-commerce sites are legally compliant with different standards that are applicable in different regions, be it ADA standards, then Section 580 and 301, 549, and EAA, which is around around the horizon that will get implemented. So apart from that, when people know that your site is accessible, they have a the customer satisfaction, I can say, is a lot, because when they have a good user experience along with an accessible experience, that definitely also helps improve your brand loyalty, your responsibility towards making your sites accessible, and also the message that you're sending to your e-commerce sites, that you believe in equality and you believe in giving equitable experience for every users. Now coming to what is WooCommerce. So when it comes to WooCommerce, if simply put across, it's just an open source WordPress plugin that is available for e-commerce. You can build your online store using this plugin of WooCommerce. You can even add different product listings to your e-commerce sites. So you can categorize it, categorize your products. You can even add certain payment and shipping gateways to your website as well through this plugin by integrating it with them. So it's easy to do that when you're using a WooCommerce at the backend. Also, when it comes to different plugins and extension for ensuring that customer management, while you're managing the customer basically and gathering the information, so it also allows to use different plugins and extension in WooCommerce. So when it comes to accessibility in WooCommerce, I'll hand it over to Athira so she can help you understand how WooCommerce is accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Fahad. So now that Fahad has given you an overview of the WooCommerce, let's dive into the accessibility part of the WooCommerce. So accessibility starts with a well-structured HTML. And the WooCommerce platform has a built-in support for semantic HTML. So using semantic HTML tags like header, footer, main. So these creates a well-structured website that is easier for the assistive technology users like screen reader or speech recognition users to interpret the content. So, and of course, we all know that native HTML provides accessibility without requiring additional external resources. So WooCommerce also allows the user to integrate ARIA as well. When it comes to the interactive elements like product galleries, carousels, filters, and shopping carts, when we are using these features provided with a dynamic shopping experience, there can be sometimes a bit difficulty for the users with disability to navigate through such content. So this is where the ARIA comes into play. So ARIA attribute help to make the complex interactive components understandable for the assistive technology. So for example, if there is an expandable control, so providing ARIA expanded attribute will help the user, especially the screen reader user, to understand the expanded and collapsed state of the control. HTML along with right use of ARIA obviously provide assistive technology compatibility and also a proper keyboard navigation. Another key feature regarding WooCommerce is that customizable element. So for a low vision user, especially when they are accessing a e-commerce site, if they want to adjust the font size or contrast setting, or even the text spacing, if they want to use it comfortably, then WooCommerce really shines over here because it allows the user to provide a toolbar where they can select these options. So that's the functionality of WooCommerce that we are getting additional. Uh, yeah, I mean, these are the features that WooCommerce obviously providing us because of the accessibility features and all. The WooCommerce stands out when it comes to plugins. But even though the majority of the accessibilities lies with developers and other uh, uh, testers who are there in the industries, still there is a chance that we can improve these plugins when it comes to accessibility. So while WooCommerce templates provide a starting point for the accessibility navigation, not all interactive elements are optimized for users who rely on solely on keyboard. So for example, as I have already mentioned, like product filters and pop-ups and all. So sometimes what happens, they suffer from poor tabbing orders, missing focus indicators, and such limitations will create confusion for the users who is using the site. Here, WooCommerce can make sure that interactive elements can be accessed and navigated using the keyboard alone, and keyboard focus indicator should be visible and consistent throughout the site. As I have already mentioned regarding the templates of the WooCommerce, we have one more thing, that is forms. Obviously, for a e-commerce website, forms are really important to complete the purchase order or the shipping order. A form is really important. Yes, WooCommerce do provide such forms, but the only concern here is that the error messages and the feedbacks are not conveyed for the screen reader user. To resolve this, we can improve the accessibility of the form validation by adding an ARIA live region to the dynamic success and the error messages, or we can provide a clear and concise error message that can be programmatically tied to the form fields. This will ensure that the users are informed of the issues and can be guided to resolve and complete the checkout or the payment process or any other forms. So, next is regarding the scripting. We all know that when there is a multiple especially for the keyboard only user, when navigating through a web page, in the header section, if there are multiple links and we have to go through multiple web pages, so it's a bit frustrating experience for the keyboard only user to tab through the same content again and again just to reach to the main content. So most of the website, if you see, there is a pattern that the header and the footer are fixed. So when navigating through these control in multiple pages, this might create frustration for the user. So it is always good to have a skip link. WooCommerce default themes does not have this currently. So implementing that would be a better option. And coming to the plugins, the custom plugins are something that we use in our day-to-day life when we are building a website, not just e-commerce website, even other website also. A third-party plugins, mostly I can see that an iframe is used or any other chatbot is used or something like a third-party tool is always used. But we have to make sure that these plugins are 100% accessible so that it wouldn't limit the user to access the content. So for example, like third-party plugins that adds interactive features such as product galleries, sliders, or pop-ups, which may have proper keyboard accessibility or ARIA support. There we can keep a strict guidelines for the plugins that we can use in our website. And when it comes to product pages, WooCommerce provides a wide variety of themes where You can select multiple products, images, you can upload that to your website. So the user can have a full-on experience to see all the products on the page. But when these images are added to the screens, so there is a requirement of alternate text for these images. That part will be covered later, but as of now, the WooCommerce doesn't enforce it that the images that we are uploading should have an alternate text. So that is something that we can improve uh, by enforcing the users who are the developers who are using the WooCommerce to add alternate text. Finally, manual changes after updates can be challenging for WooCommerce developers committed to the accessibility, especially when WooCommerce releases update. There's a change that some of the accessibility improvements, whether related to ARIA attributes, keyboard navigation, or form labels, this could be overridden. So a potential solution is to implement a rollback system that ensures any customized accessibility enhancements are preserved across updates. WooCommerce could also consider an accessibility audit with each update to prevent breaking changes. Compatibility. So as you can already see in this slide, compatibility between WordPress and WooCommerce theme is crucial for achieving full accessibility. When we have WordPress accessibility, we have a feature that WordPress provides, that is accessibility ready feature. So here we can select, or we will get the themes that meets the accessibility standards right from the start. These themes comes with features like schematic HTML markup, keyboard navigation support, and screen reader compatibility, giving us a strong foundation for accessibility. WooCommerce is also a powerful tool for building e-commerce stores, but it's essential that we choose or customize WooCommerce themes with accessibility in mind. Many WooCommerce themes don't fully adhere to accessibility guidelines by default. That's why the accessibility ready filter is a great help. It enables the user to pick themes that supports both e-commerce functionality and accessibility standards. However, one thing that we need to keep in mind is that even though the label is provided as accessibility ready, it doesn't mean that the job is done. Some customization, especially with WooCommerce specific plugins, might need manual adjustment to maintain full accessibility. So let's have a check on most popular accessibility themes that we currently have with WooCommerce. So at the top, we have Storefront, developed by the WooCommerce core team. It's specifically designed for e-commerce store, making it a natural choice for the accessibility since it's developed by the same team behind the WooCommerce. It ensures seamless integration and adheres to the best practices for accessibility. Moving down, we have themes like GeneratePress, Nerve, Zakra, and Blocksy. These themes are versatile, making them ideal for a variety of purposes, including blogs, news, e-commerce stores, business portfolio, and more. So, particularly the GeneratePress is a popular choice due to its clean code and accessibility ready feature, which reduces unnecessary complexities for the users. All of these themes offers a great starting point for the developers to build a accessible website, but we have to make sure that efforts are taken to improve the accessibility manually as well. So this was all regarding the accessibility features and the improvement areas that we can have in the WooCommerce platform. Now let's see how we can design the website by keeping inclusivity in mind. So let's start with a basic one, that is the color contrast. So when you're browsing through the website or any other sites that we come across on day-to-day life, we can understand that color plays an important part. So we have to make sure that color contrast is met as per the standards of WCAG. So for the standard text, the minimum color contrast ratio is 4.5:1 with the background. So the text needs to pass this criteria. And for the last text, it should be 3:1. And for the non-contrast, non-text elements such as a graphical image or something, any other image that conveys the information, or the border or border of the input field, or focus indicator, this should have a minimum contrast ratio of 3:1. Incorporating accessibility in your website will improve the look and feel along with a wide range of users. And remember, a good contrast doesn't just help people with disability, it also improves the overall readability and usability of the web pages. So let's see what is the next. So let's I wanted to add one more point to the color. So it's not just the color contrast. There is one more part, that is color alone also, that we need to consider, because we have people who have the condition of color blindness. So for them, it is better to implement the pages that can be easily visible and easily understandable. Make sure that you don't rely completely on color to convey the information. So here in this example, there is a link that says pages. And if you notice, there is an underline, so which stands out from other text. So this will convey the colorblind user that, okay, this is something that is interactive and I can activate this to get to the page. Yeah, so that was regarding the color. Let's see the next part that we can incorporate in our designs, that is image. We cannot imagine an e-commerce website without the product image, right? I mean, take any example, Amazon, any of the example. Without image, we cannot imagine a website. So images plays an important part in enhancing the user interface of your website. The accessibility regarding image is pretty much simple. If the image is decorative, hide them programmatically. So if the IMG tag is used, then the alt should be kept empty. And if there is any other SVG image or anything that is decorative, then you can provide ARIA hidden true simply to hide the image from the user. If it is decorative, then you don't have to provide any details. But if the image is informative, you have to make sure that a descriptive alternate text is provided for the image. When a screen reader encounters an image in the website, it reads out the alt text, helping user understand what the image represents. Without alt text, these users would miss out an important part of the image. So especially when we are creating a e-commerce websites, the product images are really important. And if there is no description or anything that is given for that product, then pretty much possible that they might not be interested on the products. Just giving alternate text not just provide accessibility, but also improves your SEO by helping search engines to understand the content of the images. Yeah, over to you, Fahad, you can continue.
Thanks, Athira, for sharing that information. I'll just add to what Athira mentioned about images. So when you go to your WooCommerce, when you're trying to upload certain products, so you will see a kind of a media dialog. In that, at the right-hand section of that particular dialog, once you upload any particular image, you will find certain fields where you can enter your alt text, or if you want to add a caption to that particular image, you can even do that. while adding a product image on that particular e-commerce website. So now coming to the structure. So when we talk about websites, how we can forget the structure. So there are a lot of features I can say which WooCommerce or WordPress, if we say, it gives a lot of ways to add structure to your web page. So be it heading, lists, tables, landmarks. So it helps you to ensure that your content of your website is in a proper structured manner. Be it ensuring that every page having a heading one, or ensuring that the content is not structured as a heading. So you will get a kind of a panel once you are into your website and you try to edit the content of your website. There would be a toolbar through which you can add such formatting to, like, if you want a particular text to be heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can do that easily. So ensure that it is as per the hierarchy and as per the context of your page, and ensure that it is following the hierarchical manner as well. It should start from H1 to H6. Don't forget to skip any heading in between. That really confuses a screen reader user, because it might appear to them that they have forgot one of the section on the page, and they might just be like, it would be a frustrating experience for them. When it comes to list, there is also a way to add a list structure, be it an unordered list, ordered list. You can do that using the toolbar that is given in WordPress. You can add your information in a sequential manner. So ensure when you're giving the products information, different specification for your product, highlights of your product, ensure they are correctly marked in a list. So user can understand how many features are there for your products, or what are the key highlights of your products, right? Apart from that, ensuring any structure that needs to be in tabular format. So when you are trying to compare something, when you want to showcase why your product is better than others, so we always have a comparison table in product review section, or maybe product description section. So ensure those are well formed, they are having appropriate headers, column headers, row headers. So you can add that. You can see there is a screenshot available wherein you can add a table, and you can add how many columns you want, how many rows you want. You can even create a complex table using this feature, because one amazing thing that I'll say WordPress gives you, or WooCommerce gives you, is customizing the HTML behind it. So you can easily customize the HTML and try to enhance the accessibility within the given component, and that can be done easily. Apart from that, adding landmarks, that is something you need to do. Some of the themes which Athira mentioned, most of the themes I can say would be having at least basic landmarks within it, like header, footer, main content. But if there are any additional complementary landmarks that you want to provide, like just a quick information about the product, so that is something you can easily do, again, by customizing, adding a customized code into your e-commerce site, so that user can easily jump to those landmarks and get that information. Next is about the layout and the design of your e-commerce site. So it needs to be having consistent navigation. What do we mean by this is basically when you're having certain navigation elements in your header or footer, that needs to be consistent. Don't play around just for the sake of making it more visually appealing or making it fancy. You can still make website fancy along with keeping the accessibility intact. But just don't make your navigation inconsistent, which will cause people with disabilities to, really a confusing experience it will be, because they would say, okay, in header section, I have visited this particular link, but now that is not available in header section. Where the hell did that link go, or where the hell that button went? So you need to ensure the navigation should be consistent. Apart from that, in this era or age, I can say mobile users are far more compared to someone who is browsing on a desktop, be it mobile, be it tablet, be it any handheld device. So those are very popular nowadays compared to desktop when it comes to browsing or shopping for any product. So we do have lots of apps as well, as you all know. So making those making the e-commerce site responsive would be a very important part when it comes to the accessibility. So any users can interact with the website. As I said, accessibility is like ensuring that they can access the site the way they want, and whichever tool they want to use, they can. Apart from that, resize and reflow. So when it comes to resize, ensuring that your text can resize as per the zoom level that a user is using or the browsers is also important. Someone with a low vision would be unable to see the small text that is placed on the screen. So they would definitely would want to zoom in the screen and understand what is all that information about. When it comes to reflow again, you need to ensure there is a single columnar view available for your e-commerce site, wherein user don't have to use the horizontal scroll bars to access the information. When it comes to orientation, again, it's about the mobile devices, especially because some people, like people who use wheelchair, they might want to mount the devices on the wheelchair and maybe to see a larger view what they are trying to browse or serve, they would want to orient the device in a landscape mode. So if you don't enable that orientation in the way the user wants into a landscape or portrait, it will block them from using your site because that experience will not be good and they might go to a different e-commerce site and will lose a customer in that case. Having a logical reading order, it's all about like how you read something. Like when you're trying to read a story, you don't necessarily start from the initial chapter and directly jumps to the last one, right? If it was in that manner, the first, the fourth, and then seventh, in this manner, the chapters are placed, you definitely won't get the head and tail of that particular story. So ensuring the order is in logical way, on the content order is in logical way, plays an important role in your e-commerce site. So ensure if I take an example of this screenshot itself, it's a cart page which is having a product image, the product detail, the name of the product, the price, quantity, the subtotal. So in this case, ensuring that it starts from top to bottom and left to right would be an important thing. Otherwise, the information will not be conveyed in an effective manner. And again, it will not be a good experience. And from an accessibility point of view as well, it will be a failure. Coming to custom elements, which Athira was also mentioning earlier, that you can add custom elements and ensure that different interactions that are there, you can easily develop, create on your e-commerce site. So when it comes to custom elements, three important things are there: name, role, value, when it comes to identifying that particular element. So as you can see, there is a screenshot which consists of a tabbed interface code. So you can basically create any component in your customized way by adding your own code and adding your own CSS into it, and ensure that by following the accessibility practices, the interaction is accessible. So your customized elements needs to have an accessible name so users can understand what that element is all about. It needs to have a role so user can understand what action that particular element will be performing, like a button or a tab. Button, I'll say stick to native, whatever elements are present natively, I'll urge to stick to native implementation because that provides accessibility out of the box. and you don't have to fiddle much around the accessibility of it. But yes, when you customize it, role is an important part because role tab currently it's not in a native format, but you need to use ARIA in that case. Apart from that, required role, required states when it comes to tabs or checkboxes or even switch controls, you need to ensure the state is provided for the control. So that can also be given by providing a customized HTML. So it is possible, guys. It is not that it is impossible. It will take efforts. It will take dedication to ensure that your e-commerce site is accessible. And it won't happen over the night. It will take a proper planning, and you can definitely make that happen. When I say about accessible name in my earlier part, so accessible name not only helps describe its purpose, it also helps to understand what the element is all about. So this is a very interesting feature that most of the browsers provide now. It's called accessibility tree. It sits in your developer dev tools in your browsers. So when you inspect any element, like when you create something customized in a customized way, always try to go to an accessibility tree and see the computed properties. Here you will understand what will be the name that is coming out of that particular element. So here we can see it's add to cart cap, because that's what the ARIA label in this case it's given to make it more descriptive. You can see what is the role. Currently it's linked. If it's focusable or not, it will show you it's true. If any additional information is there, even that will be shown in this description. So you can see there is an additional description provided to it stating bright yellow cap with adjustable strap, offering comfort, style, and sun protection for everyday wear. So making your elements accessible via providing an accessible name is an important feature when it comes to accessibility. Ensure your elements are not identically labeled or identically named, because it will confuse a user who is using a screen reader, and not only screen reader, but also someone with mobility impairment. If they are using a speech recognition softwares, like in iOS, there is voice control, or in Android, there is voice access as well. If they are trying to use that to interact with elements on the page, they won't be able to reach where they want if all the elements are named in the same way. So a minute differentiator needs to be there to make it more descriptive. Apart from that, I'll also say it needs to be not ambiguous. It needs to be descriptive so that user can understand the purpose of that particular element. Coming to keyboard navigation, some part of it Athira has already covered with regards to navigation and sorts. So remember a few things when it comes to keyboard navigation and you're adding something on your WooCommerce site. It needs to be reachable when using a tab key or any input device. It needs to be operable. Basically, when you press any space bar or an enter key on any particular interactive element, it needs to function something. It needs to action out the event. Also, using a mouse device, it needs to action out the same event, or any switch devices as well. It needs to have a visual focus indicator. So in the second screenshot, as you can see, this is one of the themes that is of WooCommerce itself. So it is having a focus indicator, which is a purple color border, I can say, which is distinctly visible. As soon as my focus lands on that particular element, it will be a border of purple color. So I know where my current focus is on with a keyboard. Also following a logical focus order. So in case of header, main, and footer, there would be lots of interactive elements. Visually, if they are in a particular order, it needs to receive the keyboard focus also in that particular order. If you break that focus order, so it will break the semantics, because user will be confused that they are jumping all over the page. They're not going in a logical sequence. So when it comes to focus order and reading order, it needs to be from left to right and top to bottom. Always remember that. Now coming to focus management, how we can forget the dynamic interactions that are there in most of the e-commerce sites. So whenever there are dynamic interaction, focus management plays an important role. Be it adding something to your cart. I have seen some of the e-commerce site, when you add some product to your cart, my focus would jump directly to that particular cart icon wherein the quantity keeps on increasing. Why would we want to do that? You can easily just announce that interaction by saying, okay, one product added to the cart via live region. So these small things can help make your e-commerce site more accessible. Don't shift the focus out of the context. If it is really needed in certain cases, you can shift it. So for example, when it comes to modal dialogue, when you're invoking a modal dialogue, your focus will shift inside that dialogue, which is really important. I have seen even that is not done properly in some of the e-commerce sites. So when you have to do it, you must do it, but don't do it in each and every interaction. Again, when it comes to e-commerce site, how can we forget the forms? So in WooCommerce, you can create, or I can say WordPress also gives that feature where you can add different types of forms. So I'm taking an example of simple contact form where you have name, email, message field in this particular screenshot as well. And in the left-hand side, you can basically customize the label of it, the format that you want it to be in, and if any additional description you want to provide, and if you want to make it a required field. So in many of the cases, if you can see currently on this particular form itself, the star is indicating something. So in majorly most of the cases, it indicates it's a required field. But what about the instruction? Like what does that star stands for? So you can see that is missing in this particular case. So that is something you will have to manually add in this case. When it comes to visually label control, ensure this label field is accurately filled. That will help provide a visual label as well. And that will help you meet that requirement. Fortunately, you can easily associate your label through this. And when it comes to different controls, you need to also ensure it is grouped, right? Ensuring there are important visual cues given when it comes to multi-form, step forms, it needs to correctly give out the progress of that particular step. If it's step 1, 2, 3, and so on. Another important thing when it comes to forms is you need to allow time to extend the session in case where it's really required. So don't log out user abruptly when it's not needed. Dynamic interactions I have somewhat already spoken about. I'll just talk about live region because when there are important feedbacks that needs to be given, it needs to be given in accessible way as well. So some of these dynamic messages could be like, as you can see, some of the example like you are being warned or just information that needs to be given or success your product has been bought or something along those lines. So even that needs to be accessible. By just making it appear on the screen won't help. When it comes to multimedia also, WooCommerce or WordPress allows you to add captions. It allows you to add subtitles when you try to upload any particular video. So ensure you do that because it will really help people who are deaf, who cannot hear the audio of that particular video. It will help them to understand the context of that particular video. So testing and how to improve WooCommerce, this will be covered in short by Athira. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Fahad, for that. Uh, so before any product reaches to the end user, we must ensure that the design aligns with the accessibility standard. So either you can provide a screenshot of your website that you're about to create or a Figma design before implementing it to the production team. So that will reduce the cost effects and also improves the accessibility from the start itself.
I'm
No?
sorry, Athira.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're super short on time. We have 5 minutes and the audience has a ton of questions. Would it be all right if I switch to the questions instead?
Yeah, sure. That
Thank
works.
you, Athira. Thanks so much. You have a very comprehensive presentation today. I'll get started with the first question. Is there a benefit to having a WooCommerce store on a dedicated subdomain as opposed to just part of the main domain?
Yeah, I'll say rather than having in a subdomain, it would be better to have it on the main domain because it will help to ensure that the integration is smooth across your subdomains rather than having it on the subdomain separately.
Thank you. Next question. Do you have experience with any of the other e-commerce plugins for WordPress or alternate platforms like Shopify? And what is your opinion on how accessibility in WooCommerce compares to that?
Okay. So that's a good question because I do have experience with certain Shopify sites. Also, some sites are built using Shopify. So I'll say Shopify is something currently, as per my experience, I'll say is not giving that much accessibility out of the box. There are a lot of things that needs to be manually done, and while doing that, I'm sure you will forget some of the other thing when it comes to ensuring implementing accessibility over there. So because it also depends on how you're creating that Shopify website with different liquid themes that are there. So it all depends on that as well.
Thank you. We know WordPress is committed to accessibility, so the expectation is that WooCommerce would be accessible out of the box. So the question is, are there any major or common accessibility issues with WooCommerce either out of the box or in typical WooCommerce sites?
Yeah. So in the initial part of the presentation, we did mention about some of the challenges that are there currently, which needs to be manually looked after. So for example, the error messages that are there. So they are not necessarily out of the box very descriptive. If you want to make them more descriptive, that you have to do it manually at the backend. Apart from that, not every theme will give you an skip links. So that also is something you can manually add to your theme later on, because I'll say it is not a mandate to have a skip link, but it is really a good user experience when there are skip links on the page. One last thing I will also say is when it comes to alt text, it is not enforced how Athira was saying because it is not a required field currently. You can just go away with it, and then there should be an option to. I'm sure you must have used Word or PPT as well. They have an option to make it decorative, or you can add an alt text to that. So maybe some kind of that feature will help so to make a conscious decision on the images as well.
Thank you. We have a minute and a half, and I want to ask two questions. One, what are your tips for conforming to EN 301549, a European accessibility law that stretches beyond WCAG? And if you could very briefly recommend specific tools or methodologies that you find most effective for auditing WooCommerce sites. We have about 2 minutes.
Sure. So I'll say when it comes to EN 301549 also, you need to ensure you're compliant, like you're conforming to WCAG 2.1 standard. Beyond that, if you have to go, you can use your device accessibility features that are there, high contrast mode, or even magnifiers that are there on your OS. So you need to ensure that it supports that as well, because sometimes e-commerce sites are also web applications. So in that case, you need to adhere to that. Yeah.
And then, are there specific tools that you would recommend or some that your company Barrier Break uses frequently?
So when it comes to reviewing the theme, I can say when you are trying to select a theme, there is one great tool freely available called Andy. So you can definitely use that because that's free and very easy to use. It has different modules to select from, and it will give you some automated results and some guidance as well. So you can definitely use that. Yeah.
I use Andy. I'm familiar with it. That's a
Yeah.
bookmark that you could put. I like to use Chrome, so I have it on my Chrome bar.
Right.
Andy will review your site and give you results at the very top of your browser, and then you can select different tabs that are
Different
they're
elements that
labeled and color coded, right? So
right.
that you can
Yeah.
see different portions of the website. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like there's so much more we can discuss. We have a ton of questions in the chat, so please join there and see if you can answer some. Athira and
Sure.
Fahad, thank you again. And thank you for attending this session. You can continue this conversation in the chat or social media using our hashtags WP Ally Day and hashtag WPAD 2024. We also appreciate if you go back to 2024.wpaccessibility.day/feedback to provide anonymous feedback for our speakers on their presentation. You can enter to win a t-shirt while you're there. Stay tuned. We have one more session for y'all, maintaining your site's accessibility well after launch. And this will be presented by Jeanette Stair, an accessibility lead and project director for Government Services Forum 1. That'll be our next and final hour. While you're waiting, don't forget to visit our sponsors pages to grab virtual swag and for a chance to win great prizes. See you right after this break.
Thank you to WordPress Accessibility Day 2024 sponsors. Platinum sponsor 20i. Easily build, deploy, and manage all your projects with 20i managed WordPress hosting. One UI for all your servers, apps, sites, databases, security, DNS, and email. Perfect for agencies, e-commerce, developers, multi-site hosting, and high-traffic sites. Platinum sponsor Equalize Digital. Since all they do is accessibility, every post on their blog is an accessibility resource. You can find webinar recordings, articles, and additional resources at equalizedigital.com/resources. Platinum sponsor, WP Engine. WP Engine provides the most relied upon and trusted WordPress products for businesses, brands, and agencies of all sizes. Thanks to our gold sponsors, GoDaddy, Grackle Docs, Gravity Forms, Green Geeks, TPGI, and Yoast. And thank you to our silver sponsors, CodeGeek, Drake Cooper, Elementor, Overnight Website, Pressable, Second Melody, and Accessibility Collective.